Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Pies Nation podcast, where the pies are hot and the drinks are cold. Nicholas Sacco here with you, your host, episode 15 of season 7, or episode 188, if you're counting from the beginning. The Saints tagged, they haggled, they did everything they could to stop us in our tracks. They were unable to topple the mighty Pies at Marvel Stadium, and we now set ourselves up in a favourable position to start the second half of the season. Today, we'll look into what ended up being many talking points from Saturday night's win, get some fan reactions from SpeakPie, and go through what was a nail-biting triumph in the VFL amongst many other of our favourite segments. And after a week off, it was great to see Jack Dugan and Marcus Callahan right in front of me here in the Backchat studios. Welcome, gents. I mean, it didn't seem like there was too much to come out of Saturday's win, and then just let the media do what they need to do, and all of a sudden Collingwood were out at talk of the town again. But the main story should be that we're 6 points clear on top of the ladder.
And a game in hand, I believe, as well, Nico. Welcome back to you as well, gentlemen. Post-bye, we look a little bit slack, a little bit lacklustre in that first half, but what a mature performance once again, Jacko. The Pies able to get it done.
Yeah, a bit of a frustrating night on Saturday night, Nico, down at Marvel. But on the whole, I think it's just Marcus just said, really mature win for this group. I think if you said at the start of the night we're going to walk away 5-goal winners, you'd have taken it to the bank and ran. And we spoke earlier on last week about how important it was with the certain results going our way that we capitalise, and capitalise we did, and we've got ourselves again in another fortunate position. And looking ahead to this week's game against the West Coast and the rest of the season, we're looking pretty good.
Yeah, there was always a worry about us being a bit lethargic coming into a game off the bye. It's the Collingwood way. It's happened many times over previous seasons, and even as good as we've been playing already in 2025, it was bound to happen again. The Saints weren't going to have another performance like they did against the Dogs prior as well, so we knew it was always going to be a fight. Ross Lyon, as he does with his tactics, did everything he can. Maybe he should have a bit more time into that instead of complaining about other things. But for us to run away 34-point winners in the end, it was very pleasing to see. So let's not waste much time. Let's get stuck into the match. And we'll start, as we always do, with the pie that caught your eye. Marcus, take it away.
Well, I think before the bye I went with Scotty Pendlebury, and I'm going to go with Scotty Pendlebury once more. Gents, I don't know if it's part of me realising I might not be able to say Scott Pendlebury in the next not too distant future for the pie that caught my eye, but what I really wanted to celebrate from Pendles is not just his goal, but just the way that he flew the flag for Nick throughout this match. I think that there's an enormous amount to be said for the way Steele went about it too, in terms of knowing that Nick was going to get some heavy treatment, and sure enough he did. So fantastic to piggyback off your interview with Caff last week, which was excellent. Thanks to you, Nico, for that one. But yeah, just love the way that Pendles brought his support, leadership, and just wasn't having any of Windhager's extras, shall we say, gentlemen, throughout this match. So just want to, again, shout out how grateful I am, and I think we are, to still have Pendles playing as well as he is. But it's not the stuff he does on the ball, as we know. It's his off-the-ball leadership as well. So hats off to Scotty P.
Still had 20-odd touches and played another terrific game with the work he did, and kicked a nice goal with the piano keys as a celebration. You're right. David King made a fantastic point. He's been very good on this issue, I have to admit, over the last 24, 48 hours. But you look at how Collingwood ensured that every time Marcus Windhager moved past the Collingwood play, he got checked, just a little bit of a bump, just to remind him, hey, you're not just dealing with one player tonight, you're dealing with an entire squad. Compare that to our lovely friends over at Carlton and how they were treating their own teammates over the weekend. There's no wonder they're in a bit of a rabble. But the point being, we've got such a great mentality, and Fly spoke about it again post-game. If you come for one, you come for all, and it really did showcase that being the point again on Saturday.
And thanks for bringing that up, because I know Dan Houston, Jamie Elliott, there was a host of other players who did it, but there was a moment on the wing where Windhager was coming off to the bench and Pendles came on for Nick, and literally went out of his way to just check Windhager, I guess well and truly off the ball, but I was just that really set the tone for me in terms of the way teammates stuck up for Nick. So huge props, Jacko.
And to this point as well, fellas, I think it shows up on the stat sheet. So in previous weeks where we've seen when Nick gets sort of tagged out of the game, so to speak, I know that hasn't really happened much apart from Queen's birthday, but we've seen blokes like Sidebottom and Pendlebury sort of lap it up in terms of getting high disposal numbers themselves. With that point of Marcus, which is a great one, looking now to shift the focus to look after him as well, they've again sacrificed their own game and perhaps had lesser numbers on the stat sheet, which just goes to show their leadership within this group and how big that is, and also shows that in Nick's development of shaking the tags, we're developing as a side and finding new ways to try and combat that. The pie that caught my eye this week was Pat Lipinski. Now, one at half time, I think it was in the conversations who I thought had a bit of a quiet one. Got on the end of a nice silky goal in the second quarter, I believe, but still was probably struggling to have an impact. Of course, coming off the concussion, that could have been a little bit of a worry, but was absolutely pivotal in the second half, especially in key moments of the game where we needed a lift and needed to go. He was at the forefront of that, whether it was inside 50s, his connection play along the wing, or indeed a long bomb 50 goal that came straight after a St Kilda goal. That just to get, again, big moments that in games I feel like get forgotten about when you run away with it by 34 points like we did. You'll forget that when the game was there to be won, blokes like Pat Lipinski were standing up. So I think he deserves all the plaudits he gets this week.
Terrific again from Paddy. I think he started to slowly get into the game by being that link-up player between half-back and half-forward, and that got his hands on the footy. Finished with 26 and 2, and he was top 3 on the ground of Collingwood plays for marks, tackles inside 50s, and score involvements for the remainder of the match. I think if you had said to me at the start of the night that Pat Lipinski will win his one-on-one battle with Jack Sinclair, then I'd say, well, we've obviously won by triple figures. Now, obviously that wasn't the case because Sinclair was still pretty average, got a few cheapies late in the last quarter, but beside the point, I thought the role that Pat Lipinski played in our win was monumental, and it's just serves a little bit of a reminder why he still is that best 22, best 23 calibre player for us.
Wing or half forward, where does he play his best footy, gents?
It's a tough one because what he's showcased over the last 12 to 24 months is he can play both very, very well. I think for the time being, I don't mind that half-forward role. If he's going to continue to hit the scoreboard in the way he did on Saturday night, then I think that's fantastic for us to serve as another option going forward. But we also know he's capable that should there need to be a few adjustments made, or we need some more time from Steele in the middle, or Josh Daicos at half-back, that Lipinski can slide into that wing role pretty well.
Because obviously the sour note was Bo doing his hammy, and with Shooter still at least a few weeks away, as I understand, we're not going to be rushing Lockie Schultz back. Jacko, do you think Lippers is usually good for one or two when he plays half forward? So I just wonder, is that a need now?
Yeah, a classy midfield. I say this all the time. Any chance you can get to throw them forward, you should, because not only are they good at accumulating the ball, they're generally pretty good in front of the big sticks. And I think Marcus made a great point off air, Nico, before about whether if he's playing wing, you just feel like someone like Pat Lipinski could potentially lack getting back deep inside in terms of our defence and laying a fist in there. So who knows? It'll be time will tell, but probably an opportune time again with Bo McCreary going out of the side that he can slot up there and hopefully get on the end of a few.
Such a shame because he had a terrific opening term and was winning some pretty pivotal clearances, and one of those clearances that he won ended up being the one that sort of saw him be out for the remainder of the match. Now, they said hamstring awareness. They didn't specifically say that he did a hamstring, so maybe it was a bit more cautious than it could have been, but regardless, pulling the trigger early is never a good sign, so we might see a bit of time for him on the sidelines, unfortunately, but such an important player for us coming back. The pie that caught my eye was DC, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, get the checkbook out, give him a figure, however much he wants, just sign it and be done with it, because he has been super impressive again, and took Rowan Marshall, who's no slouch in his own right, but took him to the cleaners by the end of the night. 19 disposals, 8 marks, 5 of those contested, 12 contested possessions, 28 hit-outs, 8 score involvements, kicked 2 goals, 1 when it really could have been 3 or 4 by the end of the night when we were struggling, and Jamie Elliott and Bobby Hill were very quiet in that opening half. To have Darcy Cameron as an option going up forward, who I think, as great as he has been as an option inside 50, I think he'd only kicked 3 or 4 goals prior to Saturday night for the season. So just to see him get that confidence up early, nail a couple of important set shots for us, but still go about his merry way in terms of winning clearances and being a force in the ruck. I think winning that battle against Marshall was a big telling to us going on to be victors in the match. So again, Darcy Cameron just being superb. It was a pretty standard night all round for him, but I think it was just highlighted a little bit more knowing that we had some players who had sort of down performances, I felt, and it was just showcased by the fact that he was able to go around and play the role he did. So I thought DC was exceptional once again.
Well, important to note as well, Nico, much like we were talking about before, kicked his goals early and was big in early stages of the game, that when you run away with the game like we did, you probably forget about it, I feel. So he set the tone for us early, was able to get on the end of a few, and yeah, it was a really, really big reason why we went on to win this game.
Did you think it was coincidence that both of his set shots came from like sort of 45, 50 out, and he got sort of uncontested marks, which DC doesn't really do? I noticed that the Saints were sagging right back into their defence. They're getting a lot of numbers back, as Ross Lyon's teams do. But was that coincidence or him identifying some space that he was able to get on the board early? Because either Marshall was just completely away with the fairies, which it seemed like he was in the first term, or DC exploited that space to his advantage. But I don't know if I'm giving him too much credit there. But to go back and kick those set shots for ruckman Nico, it's exceptional skill for a big man.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's the latter, because I don't think Wilkie or Caminiti gave him too much respect either inside their defensive 50, which probably allowed DC to be more of an option. They were probably having their hands full with Checkers and McStay and Tim Membry, who were pretty prevalent throughout the entire night. So, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and say it was the latter, and that he sensed an opportunity to have an effect inside forward 50, and he was able to do that so well. So just another string to Darcy Cameron's bow. Just on the forward half, probably one of our lower points of the evening, I should add, gentlemen. I know that we ended up kicking 100-odd points once again, but you really felt like it could have been more by the end of the night. We really butchered some entries inside 50, and you spoke about the Saints flooding deep inside their defensive half. We only had one scoring shot from inside 20 metres for the entire night. And usually we're pretty creative enough to lower the eyes and find those opportunities in the pocket or directly in front, but pretty close out. Only afforded one chance, so we really had to make our moments count. I felt like we did reasonably well with our set shot goal kicking throughout the night, but just unfortunately we just couldn't find that finishing touch, especially in those second and third terms when the Saints were pressing. We really could have put them away earlier than we ended up doing throughout the night.
And I think we kicked 5 straight to start the match as well, and a few of those coming from set shots, Darcy Cameron, Tim Membry, to name a few. So it's just another sign of a mature team, at least being able to get off to that good start. And yes, it became an arm wrestle, and the opposition is probably going to come back. But I fast forward to the second half, Nico, because you're right, through those middle parts of the match, it was frustrating. Checkers missing a set shot. There's some others there. But Jamie Elliott, don't we need to highlight him in the third term with his set shot, and then there was a chase down tackle which resulted in a holding the ball call, and that for me was a huge moment in the game because the Saints were coming after halftime and they really stuck at it. So I do applaud their intent and effort and want to get the ball forward. They just didn't have that Max King or that tall timber for that deeper entry to convert on their supply that was coming through thick and fast. And it's also a testament to our defence for being able to hold up as well. But just coming back to Billy Elliott, boys, again, it wasn't his night, but he still comes away with the 2 goals and 3 big moments. Yep. How important is he just as we enter the last sort of 6 weeks of the season, 7 weeks?
And not only for Jamie Elliott, but you probably look at it across the board in this game. That was probably the trend of the game, was that many probably didn't have their best nights, but when their moment came, they absolutely took control of it. On the St Kilda's ball movement, Nico, I felt, and speaking about our forward line, I felt like it left it too easy on Saturday night, far too often. I mean, St Kilda haven't been a side this year that have been able to transition the ball very quickly. We know Ross Lyon sides of old are generally pretty slow and methodical, but that was how they were hurting us all night. It felt like they just kept getting on the fast break, kept slingshotting off half back. And in games so far this year, we've been able to do a lot of things for our team defence to rectify that. But as Marcus just said, after half-time, the Saints still were coming out firing. We're still moving the ball as quickly as they had for the whole entire game. So then that speaks to an importance. Okay, we might not be having our best night on the night, but we need a lift here, and lift they did.
Yeah, exactly. It was only their lack of efficiency inside forward 50, the Saints, that probably prevented them from kicking away and potentially winning the match. 46.2% was their efficiency inside forward 50.
And we know, we've already seen it as well this time. We know as Collingwood supporters that we've got a long way to go before I feel like we reach our absolute best. But we got a good example against the Cats, and we've had a few other examples of against sort of top tier sides in the comp that we can get hurt like that. We can get hurt in transition. And although we have been able to rectify it okay thus far, especially when you're not winning the midfield battle, which is another one of our areas of a weakness at this stage, games could, against really class opposition with tall timber, could get away from us.
Yeah, lost the clearances once again on Saturday night, which was not ideal. And a big part of St Kilda's transition game at times was Nazaya Wanganeen-Malira, who I touched on Thursday night as being the main target that we had to try and prevent. Ended up with 35 touches. He was such a highlight for him. I felt like he nearly won the game on his own just from his speed and dash from half back and the way he was setting up scoring opportunities for his side. I think he's playing in a top 8-9 team. We're talking about him in such a much higher regard than we probably are right now. He was so pivotal for him.
And for me, a lock for all Australian. Like his class, his dash is just so impressive. Yep. But I think that for all of their efforts, and he was involved in so many changes getting them forward. Darcy Wilson was another one who kept finding it in the second half. But Darcy Moore came into the game, I felt, in a way that, again, wasn't high disposal, but there was just one moment in the second half where he marked it and he just played on and he just looked corridor. And I just didn't see enough of that in this match. And I'm not sure if that was us trying to counter any efforts from the way Ross Lyon wanted to set up behind the footy boys. But did we see a lack of corridor in the game just gone?
Yeah, I think so. And it wasn't until the game demanded it when it lifted the intensity after half-time to start sort of looking a bit more dangerous and looking to go a bit more central. I felt the reason why we weren't doing that is just there was a period right probably throughout the second quarter where we kept having forward entries and then St Kilda would go down once, score, and then all of a sudden we'd be on the back foot again for a period of time, which maybe we potentially halted our ability to go inboard. Again, full credit to the Saints for being able to hurt us every chance they got, it seemed, on the night. And with us probably not taking full advantage of our dominance up until that point in the game, that was probably the reason why I thought we were probably a bit tentative to go central.
Yeah, I think I tend to agree with that for sure. I still feel like we do okay going down the line, and that's still the primary objective. But when that wasn't working, particularly because of how well St Kilda were playing as soon as the ball hit the deck, they were absolutely everywhere. More numbers at each contest, and that allowed them to exit our forward half much quicker than we would have liked. So I think that was a big telling as well. Let's touch on Nicholas Daicos. Because I don't know if you're aware, but he did have 30 disposals, a goal, 3 marks, 3 tackles, 14 contested possessions, 9 intercepts, 9 score involvements, 9 inside 50s and 5 clearances. I'm not sure if anyone picked that up because all I've been reading for the last 48 hours is all about the sookiness that he's had and how he's been umpired differently, and there's just been so much debate about Nick and the way he played. I couldn't be prouder. I could not be prouder of the way that Nick handled himself again on Saturday night. And we touched on it a little bit earlier in the show, Marcus, about how his teammates were there to support him from the start. But he doesn't complain. He doesn't get tired. Yes, he shows a bit of frustration, but that's just because we're all human, and that's just how it tends to be. But post-game, very classy, the way he talks about the opposition, the way he talks about him and his teammates. Was still probably one of, if not the best player on the ground on Saturday night. And just the way he's able to work himself through these tags at such a young age and, still hasn't even played 100 games of AFL footy yet. I just marvel at what Nick's able to do. And I think I haven't smiled like I did in a long time when I saw that goal go through in the final term. It was the reward for effort, for the hard work and the gutless running he had to endure each and every time he was near the football. He even said it himself post-game, was a bit of a relief when he saw the ball float through the big sticks. But, I couldn't be more proud of the way that Nick goes about it. And I don't really take much as to what opposition fans or analysts say because I guarantee that they would take Nick in their own side in an absolute heartbeat. But, just super impressed with him once again.
Yeah, it's really enjoyable, that goal, in terms of what it means for a broader body of work across this season. I think that if Nick isn't being worn like a glove week to week, he's absolutely polling in the Brownlow. 2 votes for Nick Daicos, Brownlow watch, by the way, Nico.
Yes, thank you.
He's absolutely polling week to week, and we saw that last year. So the evolution of Nick Daicos is, can he wear a tag? Can he not let his emotions boil over? Can he harness that frustration and turn it into a productive game of footy? And geez, it must be difficult, depending on who the tagger is, to find their weaknesses and try and turn them into opportunities. We saw with Ed Langdon, he was able to go with Nick. Just his running capacity was something that I don't think Windhager quite had once Nick had broken away from the stoppage and had ball in hand. So to see Nick just continue to grind away, and he understands and takes it personally that this is his next challenge in order to develop as a footballer, because guess what, he probably does want to play 350 games and these tags are not going anywhere. So a bit like probably Paddy Dangerfield, Nat Fyfe had to experience early on in their careers, Jacko. Nick Daicos in front of our very eyes is growing week to week.
Yeah, for sure. And not to be underestimated, Nico, as Marcus just highlighted, is this body of work that has got to this. I'm so glad he got that moment of the goal as well, because as Marcus just said, it felt like he was in his celebration. He released like a good month's worth of emotion out of there, and didn't the crowd get up for it as well? I was lucky enough to be there on Saturday night, and it was loud at Marvel Stadium, probably the sealer within the game as well. So it was a very, very cool moment. But just another example of Nick Daicos proving his doubters wrong. I mean, how many times do we see him put his head over the ball in 50-50 situations on Saturday night and win it, which has been a big criticism of him up until this point in his career. So you echo both of your boys' sentiments there. So incredibly proud of the body of work that he's had to work through so far this season, and how he continues to develop. And yeah, if the trend keeps going the way it is, it's a scary prospect.
So when I spoke to Kath this time last week, and you can catch that video if you haven't had a chance to watch it yet. Great timing, I thought. So kudos to me as always. But he spoke pretty clearly when he was in that position, in that tagging role. The second he could sense or find that frustration in an opposition player, he knew he had them covered. So, there was every chance Marcus Windhager thought that halfway through the first quarter when Dax gave away that free kick for pushing it back, which was absolutely soft as butter, by the way. But the point being, there was every reason for Marcus to think that would have been the case. But the fact that Nick just got on with it and continued to play his role for the side and maybe sacrificed a little bit of his own game, and we were able to see still the likes of McCreary early on and Pendlebury and Sidebottom and Crisp still getting clearances for this side. Yes, we didn't win the clearance count, but half of our scores on Saturday night came from clearances, and we're usually 9th or 10th in the AFL in that category. So it just goes to show that Nick's determined to always put his best foot forward, and as I said, couldn't be more prouder. The coaches' votes have just come in as well. Darcy Cameron got a perfect 10, so arguably the best on ground. Nick Daicos got 8. I was waiting to see if Ross was going to give Windhager a vote, because had it edged in my mind that he would be the type of person to do that, but he hasn't. Lipinski got 6, but then the rest were St Kilda players. Cooper Sharman 2, Callum Wilkie 2, who I thought was one of their best defenders as well. Wanganeen Malira only 1, and Ryan Marshall 1, which I found very surprising. But
that was definitely from Ross, I reckon.
Yeah, for sure.
Roma
make him feel good.
Back into the
Give
game,
him a little bit of
a goal. He was better in the second half, Marshall, but in that first term, there were bubbles in his bath for sure. So
100%.
Full kudos to Darcy Cameron for the 10.
How much are you concerned by this Bo McCreary injury that came in the first term? Because it all happened so quickly. We were talking about him in one moment, and then in the next we found out he was subbed out at quarter time. It was a blow because he was coming into the game pretty early. You could tell there was a lot of confidence, and would have been a key cog to us going forward for the remainder of that match. Looks like he might miss a little bit of time, hopefully on the minor side, but nonetheless, he's shown in the last month or so that he can be used as a really strong inside midfielder. Not that we haven't felt that in his earlier journey so far, but the fact that he's been utilised in that role now, we're seeing his full potential at use, which is fantastic. But unfortunately, it looks like he's going to miss a little bit of time. What do we think of that going forward? I
think it's conservative management, like a lot of our other soft tissue injuries, Nico. It's a luxurious position to be in at round 15, sort of saying we don't have to. Let's say it's a 4 to 5 weeker. If he needs 5 to 7, depending on who our opposition are in the upcoming week, and based on how other injuries fare between now and the end of the year, look, Bo's just been a really key cog, as you say, up until this point. So I don't need to see him again until I think we have a tough run home, like those 3 games prior to finals, provided we qualify. That's when I want to see Bo more in the frame. I don't see a need for him to come back sooner, Jack.
Yeah, for sure. There's no need to rush at this stage. The alarm bells aren't on, but gee, it was frustrating to see him go down at quarter time, especially because of how hot he started the game. And we've said it a million times before. We'll probably sound like a broken record, but the centre clearances in an area of our game that we feel we really struggle in, and when they're getting tapped straight down the throat of someone and they're able to blaze away, it's sort of lick your lips type stuff. So frustrating for Bo, of course, and I wish him all the best in his recovery, however that looks, but frustrating, I think, for the team, because Bo was adding more strings to his bow on Saturday night, Nico, and and it was looking. He was looking really good.
nice.
And at quarter time, I was sitting there thinking he's definitely going to be someone I'm speaking about on Monday's pod, because this is something that he's shown sort of hints at us so far in his career. So if he was able to put a full game together of that, I mean, far out. Talk about headaches for opposition analysts.
Yeah, again, just another one to add to the list, eh, Jack? Anything else from this game? I know that's a bit harsh to say, but I mean, it sort of played out the way it needed to. We ran away late. We've talked about the individual. I thought Jack Crisp had another terrific match as well, mind you. 10 tackles he finished, which was a game high.
He's almost tripping over. And
huge goal, 16 touches. I thought he was exceptional. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I just felt like this was one that you get challenged. We're always going to be a bit lackluster. We got away with the win, and we move on.
Yeah, look, again, I don't know if there's many more notes to go on. I guess Bobby Hill's the one for me.
Actually,
Is he having enough influence? Like, second half, that's when Bobby Hill does his best work. We know that. Maybe except for the grand final, mind you. But, like, is going into half-time with 3 touches and maybe 1 tackle. And
Donuts. I thought he was disposalless at halftime.
Yeah, not just in this game, but I'm just saying over the course of the season, he tends to be quiet in the first half. And I'm just wondering, like, what is that about? Like, there's clearly a difference in his mindset and intent. And he stays with it and he gets on the scoreboard and he has a big moment in the game. The crowd gets up and about. But, geez, I like to see that in the first quarter or in the second quarter, because the crowd ignites when Bobby Hill's on. 100%. So is that something that, obviously you can't drop Bobby, it's Bobby, but like what needs to change there so that he's that temperature gauge that's getting involved early, Jacko?
I actually don't think this is necessarily just a Bobby Hill issue either. I think this is a really good example for our whole forward line team. We've already spoken about it a little bit on the pod, but there was a sense of like a bit lethargic start on Saturday night, and you felt like their intent and their pressure wasn't quite there from the get-go until the game was on the line, deep into the third quarter. So something that's going to happen over the marathon of an AFL season, you feel, and we know that we're the top side that come September will lift again. But we're teetering on an edge here, I feel, where, if you allow this to become a bit of a trend and a habit within your game, sides are going to get you. They're going to get you towards the back half of the year. We don't want to look too far ahead, but, we've got Carlton, then we play Gold Coast in Gold Coast, and then all of a sudden we're into teams like Hawthorn, Brisbane again. So, Crows over there. So, look out. Let's make sure that, again, we can forgive them. It's this time of the year where footy's very much going into autopilot, especially when you're cruising at the top of the ladder. It's hard to really motivate yourself for a Saturday night contest at Marvel Stadium against the Saints. No offense to them, but again, important to nip this in the butt now and make sure this doesn't continue for the rest of the year.
I think the difference to what we're seeing in the last few weeks as opposed to in recent years, because it hasn't just been this year. There has been times since he's come to Collingwood where he has had quiet first half or quiet second half and he hasn't been able to play a full quarter effort. But the difference in those games previously was that he was still getting score involvements. He was still assisting others to get on the ball. He was still providing tackles. So Saturday night, 4 score involvements, 0 goal assists, 3 tackles. Is that enough of an output? Are we looking at that differently if it's a couple of other players in the side and where they sit in the best 23? I think if he had 3 or 4 disposals for the game and was goalless, but he had 15 score involvements, it's a bit excessive. But, 10, 11 score involvements, a couple of goal assists, 7 or 8 tackles, a few of those inside 50. Okay, that's fine. We're looking at something that Shooter has done for us in recent years, and that becomes a bit more of an, okay, well, he's playing a different role for us, that's fine. But if you're not even getting those statistics up to a level that we've seen him do previously, that's where my concern comes in. So, yeah, hopefully that's not a bit of a trend.
And again, hopefully it's just a little bit of a, rough patch in the course of a very long season, and Bobby's a big game player. Was this a big enough game for Bobby to turn it on? I don't like that attitude, but a part of me wonders whether Bobby might. So, look, I'm sure he's aware of his performances being below where he'd like them to be. We just need to make sure that he's absolutely firing and not just expecting to rock up at finals and turning it on, but putting in a body of work leading in that gives us that confidence.
An opportunity now as well with Shooter out of the side and now Bo McCreary, who are our barometers of that forward line pressure for others to really lead the charge now and show that they're capable of doing it as well.
Absolutely. All right, let's get to our votes then from Saturday night. Who we lean towards here?
Yeah, I've actually gone one for Pendles, again, for the reasons stated earlier, his leadership and, just huge maturity that he brings. 2 votes, I went with Nick, and 3 votes to DC Jacko.
Very nice.
Yeah, Pendle's incredibly stiff to miss out on my votes, Nico, but I gave one to Lipinski for his second half. Thought Paddy was absolutely massive again. Was one of those ones who was probably having a bit of a quiet night up until half time, but without him, I struggle to see how we win this game. So a big tick for Paddy Lipinski in the second half. 2 to Nick Daicos for reasons we've already highlighted. That goal is so far my favourite goal of the season. It really got the crowd up and about and was the sealer. And 3 to DC. He was massive in early stages of the game. Continued out that throughout the 4 quarters and putting together a very, very nice season. And as Nico said before, give him what he wants.
Yep. Blank checkbook for me. I went exactly the same, which was the same as the coaches in the end. Pendle's a little bit unlucky. Tim Membry as well.
Yeah.
Also, I felt a little bit unlucky. It was nice to see him kick a couple of goals against his old side and get one early to get a bit of confidence up. I thought he was good, but yeah, same deal here. So I went Lipper 1, Daicos 2, and DC 3. So you reckon 2 votes for Nick in the Brownlow tracker? Happy with that?
Yeah, up to about 16, I reckon, Nico. So,
okay.
but I reckon that goal is going to unlock some pretty powerful performances in the back half. So look out for some 3s.
Gee, I hope so.
On Timmy Membry as well, Nico, I thought if you're another player around the competition coming up against your old side, that is the blueprint for the attitude that you need to come with. I thought watching him on Saturday night, how much fun he was having. Obviously helps when you win the game by 5 goals, but it didn't at no stage did it feel like he made it about him at all. He just continued to play his role, continued to do exactly what he's been doing for us for the whole season, and it was so nice to see him get on the end of a few, and how fitting right at the end as well. The last 30 seconds, he kicks the final goal of the night. So
100%.
Massive shout out to Timmy Membry, who, as I said, through the week is just about pick up of the year.
Very nice. All right, let's chuck the cans on. Let's get to some SpeakPie. Thank you very much for those that send it in. Always enjoy listening to some of these. A few to get through, not too many, but still some very nice ones that have popped up over the last little bit. So let's start with one of our favourites, our regulars, Marcus in Dallas. A very short one he's given, but I think he gets right to the point, which is very nice.
He's a good boy, Nick, isn't he? Sort of lad you'd take home to your mum. Bless his little socks. That goal was sensational.
Yep.
No, I like it.
Pretty simple, Marcus. David here, thank you.
Playing the Saints last night, it was a danger game. Coming off the bye, playing them at their home ground, but we did it. We did it. And we did it.
Very good. Thank you, David. This is Mika. Thank you, Mika.
Come on, Pies. Not the best night, but we still got to win. That's all we need to keep on doing. Forward line was pretty ordinary in the first half. Elliott, Bobby Hill and Myercheck not really touching the ball at all, but they all had their parts to play, especially Elliott and Checkers in that last half. Good to see that the team helped out Daicos with his hard tag. That goes a bit of a tosser. It was a great day. Carlton lost against North Melbourne. They're not looking any good with their soft-ass draw now, are they? So good day for all supporters, except for Carlton. Ciao.
I did have to laugh in the group chat. Marcus wasn't having a nice time with Checkers, just as he goes on to kick a goal about 35 seconds later.
Literally, as soon as I hit send, I was like, this is going to bite me on the ass. No, Checkers just having one of those games where I was just like,
Do you consider resting him this week?
100%. Yeah. And we'll get to why in the VFL report. I think there's a like-for-like replacement waiting in the wings.
He wasn't alone, Nico. I had to put my hand up. So I had a nightmare. I probably did the same thing to one Jamie Elliott at a certain stage through the third quarter. They might have told him that he wasn't really getting up to much. And then as soon as those words left my mouth, he goes and has an impact. So, it goes to show how much I know.
This is Wilbur. Thank you, Wilbur.
Well, my boys, got nothing else to say. We are just cruising along. We done what we had to do tonight. Bit of resistance from the Saints, give that, but no issue. We'll motor on next week, and here we go.
This is what I mean. I didn't mean to be disrespectful when I sort of wrapped up the match review pretty early because it was just one of those games.
Yeah.
Just sort of, you go in and get it done and move on. Jake Keisha sends one every week, so we'll give him another run. So thank you, Jake.
Knock. Who's there? Definitely not the Saints, boys. Definitely what we needed after the bye. It was a close one. A lot of our defences seemed like they were still asleep from the bye. But we all, honestly, from a team effort, I can't really pick out too many players singly that had a really good game. Pendleton Sidey, Tim Membry just done well against his old club. But yeah, boys, we done it. We can go and play West Coast next weekend and hopefully get another 4 points. And whoever's sitting in 2 and 3 can lose, and we can sit 8 points clear. They'll be grouse. 10 points clear. But we shall see. Anyway.
Oh, just finished up there. But yeah, it will be 10 points clear because second and third both have to bye.
Yeah, look, I don't know what's going on here, but there seems to be some buy energy coming through SpeakPie this week, Nico.
It is.
It's a funny thing how the performance really embodies these on the siren reactions. So
These Marvel Stadium, yeah.
Well, I think, is there a bigger issue here? Like, is this permeating itself, do you think, to perhaps the players? Because we've been speaking about, a lethargic start on Saturday night. Is it bigger than just the supporters sort of just getting to the stage in the season where you're just sort of going through the motions and a couple games
winning
cleared,
every week?
top of the ladder,
Yeah, it's getting tiresome, isn't it?
backwards footy, and this is easy. So
Yeah,
I don't know. We're gonna have to be careful.
All right, we've got a couple more. We'll see what the mood is for them. This is Megan, so thank you.
Just finished watching the Pies get up over the Sainers. Great game.
See, same deal.
Obviously, Sainers really took it up to us, which was stressful at times, especially in the third quarter, but too good in the end. Nothing to be worried about. But just to put the icing on the cake, the amount of times on the Fox Footy broadcast that they have shown Carlton losing earlier today just reminds me about how good life is when Pies win and Blues lose all in the same day. They have shown that kid crying after the Carlton loss so many times, which is kind of awful, but yeah, all is right in the world on this bloody fantastic Saturday.
Oh, that's
there's no chance you weren't sliding that one in.
I don't know, maybe not. Oh, that they were very scathing of them all weekend. It's been glorious, to be honest.
Yeah, perspective is a good thing, Nico. I think when you compare ourselves up to our rivals there, we're flying.
Couple more to wrap up. So David Broadbent always sends one in, so thank you. A very short one from him.
Hey, Pies Nations, it's Dave here. 2 very simple words for this game. Job done.
Mm-hmm.
Very much simple.
It's got that feel about it.
It has. I'll tell you one man who will be up and about, one of our favourites. Colin has sent in a little voice memo, so I thought it'd be nice to wrap up.
Lift here.
I'm sure he'll be up and about this time, so let's have a listen.
Hi boys, Colin here. Well, another great win by our beloved Magpies, although it took a little while to get over that post-bye lethargy, as indicated by a few uncharacteristic skill errors early on in the game. But we got it together and got the job done. Now, Rossi Lyon, I don't think he was at the same game we were all at, because if he reckons they weren't free kicks to young Nick, I reckon he should have got another half dozen. So, Rossi Lyon, You have a good hard look at yourself, son. Now, the game, it was another great team effort. They all worked for each other and they worked for us as supporters. It's just fantastic. And when that Collingwood chant goes around the arena, it makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. Well, it's about as much as I can talk about this one. Everyone saw what was happening. And we'll go for the next one. So, boys, have a great day, and thank you very much for your podcast. Very enjoyable. Have been listening to it since the start. So keep the good work up. Okay, that's it for now. Go, you Maggies.
What a legend.
There we go.
Collingwood.
He's
Just coming
very.
to
See,
mind.
he's made a boring game sound very impressive. Just before we went on recording this podcast, Lukey put up on our socials the James Hird clip from the Footy Furnace last night, where he ran through all the 4 free kicks that Nick Daicos got, and so that he should have deserved each and every one of them. So there shouldn't be any complaining from St Kilda's end, and that if Ross Lyon went to the AFL to argue about it, he would very quickly be told, nothing to see here.
Yeah, he also gave Nick 4 votes by the looks of things, given he got 8 for the game, which is interesting too, Nico. But coming back to the umpiring just quickly, like we need to weigh in. The first one that Nick got was soft as, but Windhager was stupid for, putting
Shouldn't have been a fine.
Open part. Did you get a fine
You
for
got
that?
a fine for that.
That first free kick of the game.
Shouldn't have been a fine. All that has done is engulf the opposition fans into even more.
But it's Nick Daicos. It's
exactly
clickbait
right.
and
Yeah, I know.
Gets the media into what's already a bit of a non-news week in the footy world, other than Carlton.
Carlton.
That's so good.
So Nick gets one. Windhager gets one early, but then and you're thinking, okay, cool. If they're going to blow the whistle on this very highlighted matchup, just do it for 4 quarters.
Yep.
But what happens? The whistle effectively goes away.
Yeah.
And there's all of these tactics that Windhager were using that were completely within the rules of the game. And I actually think he's an absolute weapon of a midfielder. I loved how he went about it, but there was obviously times when he stepped across the line and the whistle wasn't blown on those many occasions, fellas. So it's ironic to me that the whistle went early and they clearly put it on the agenda for Windhager and for Nick, but then it just went completely away from that, even though there were umpires literally looking at them at the stoppage with Windhager hanging off and Daicos.
So
Go figure.
It's another thing that CAF sort of brought up last week. It's that once it starts to gain a lot of media attention, as this case has, the umpires are usually onto it straight away. Watch out for CAF or whatever he sort of mentioned. But I was also surprised by the lack of consistency as well, because they were hot on it early. Did they get told in their ear at quarter time, hey, you got to back off, you let the game play out? I don't know, but usually the way that it's officiated best this game is that if you call something early, you call that for 100%. The remainder of the match for both sides. Again, that wasn't the case, but can't expect anything less, I don't think.
Yeah, consistency is key, Nico. It's something that's not just frustrating for this part of our game in terms of like Nick Daicos and how he gets treated, but probably just in our game in general. And to the James Hird thing, I'm glad he did bring it up. It's nice to see someone who's not from the Collingwood Footy Club sticking up for Nick Daicos in the media. But Ross wants to complain about the 4 free kicks he did get. We could sit here and probably complain about the 10 he didn't. So
One wasn't even with Windhager giving it away. That was Wilson, wasn't it, with the coat hanger in the first term?
Yeah, he got away from Windhager at the stoppage.
That's right.
Got the footy at the back, ran through.
Off of Windhager,
and then,
handball.
Plan A, hold on to him. Plan B, take his head off.
One or the other. All right, well, that was SpeakPie. Thank you for everyone that does get involved. Keen to hear some more enthusiastic ones as we continue to get the wins going. So thank you very much for there. Moving on to guess the margin. Nobody got the 34-point margin. Luke was very kind to tell us in the post-match video that we put up after the game that he was very close to getting 27 points, which he picked for his 27th birthday that he had on Saturday. So happy birthday to Luke. That's why he's not here.
After his 27th Carlton.
He's still, yes, as you could probably tell by the video, had a few, but still recovering. Drink responsibly. Hopefully we see him back here next week. So no one got the margin right. Guess the crowd. Do you remember what the crowd was? From
40 odd, which is, it was good. Start frustrating because the game's still a sellout. A lot of people couldn't get
same
there.
Deal. Yeah.
So, but at least I think it's important. I know that's probably just going to happen. We're going to write that off. It's going to happen week in, week out. If you've got a 50,000 seat stadium, they say it's sold out, you're probably going to have to chop 10 off the expected crowd. However, what was really pleasing on Saturday night is all like the premium seats, so all of level 1 was full and all of level 2 was full. There's nothing more frustrating than, I'm sure, as a fan who's sitting at home missing out, when not only have they missed out on a seat row Z level 3, but they've also missed out, on a seat. Well, there's patches and patches and patches of empty seats going everywhere. So that was a bit of a tick, but still 9,000 seats left empty-handed despite being called a sellout.
Right. All right. We're going to chat to Paul, who was, I guess, the crowd competition winner for this week. He seems pretty keen to jump on when Lukey sent me through the message. So let's have a quick chat to him now.
Hello.
Is this Paul?
Yeah, speaking.
It's Nicholas from the Pies Nation podcast. You're, I guess, the crowd competition winner for this week, mate. How are you?
Yeah, well, mate, thanks.
Very good.
I've been guessing for a while, so it's good to finally win one.
Oh, well, fantastic. Great to have you on board. Tell us the method to your madness, mate. How do you go about guessing these each and every week?
Normally I just, normally it's, based on, previous crowds and what I'm thinking for the day. But this one was 43,000, so the 43 was for my age,
Right.
and the 15 was for my daughter's birthday, and the 9 was for my wife's birthday. So it worked out well.
That is very impressive. So that was perfect for a Marvel Stadium crowd. Were you one of those to head there on Saturday night? And I guess regardless, what did you make of our return from the bye and continuing our winning ways?
Yeah, no, we went. We, me and the family are Legends members, so
Nice.
we don't miss a home game. We've got reserved seats for the home game, so yeah, we were there, and I was pretty impressed, to be honest. I mean, I knew after the bye was always a bit risky of coming out a bit flat, and St Kilda aren't the best team, but I thought Ross Lyon would go defensive and try and make it a bit of a slog, which he obviously tried but didn't work, but. I was pretty happy with the win though. Like we've been winning in different ways, and that was just another way. We just came out on top. So in the end, it was just good to get the 4 points.
Paul, just Jack here, mate. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on. Speaking about this win a little bit more deeply, how much do you read into this? We've been talking on the pod so far tonight that we felt we had a bit of a lethargical start, certainly in our forward half, with a few players perhaps not being as up and about as they could be. Do we just write this win off and say another 4 points in the bag and look immediately to next week, or is there potentially a bit of a larger issue at play in terms of some negative habits that we might like to see eradicated?
No, look, I don't think so. I mean, I agree with you. There's been a few players probably not at their best. I mean, I know even Bobby Hill, he's probably kicked 20, 25 for the year, but I reckon at times he's been down, and I think in the first half he really struggled. I'm not sure he touched it, but I think that's the beauty of our team. I think we can have players down and we just find a way. So I don't think I'd be worrying too much yet. And to be honest, I mean, I reckon we've been missing Shooter a fair bit. I think he was really good, obviously, when he played earlier on in the year. And hopefully we can get him back, because he adds a bit there, just locking it in and just doing those little things that you don't really see. But no, I think having McStay back in as well, he's, I think we've just got to keep him fit, and, he could be a real wild card for us. So, no, I wouldn't be panicking just yet. But, definitely there's a few down at times. But, we've got the cover at the moment. Like even Billy started a little slow, but then had a little purple patch. So that's all we needed in the end.
That's it.
G'day, Paul. Marcus here. Sticking with the forward line, obviously Timmy Membry was a huge talking point playing against the old mob. Just curious to hear about how you found his season. Obviously turning up to this match, we thought he played it perfectly in terms of his attitude and execution. But just what have you found he's brought to this team this year?
Yeah, I've been wrapped with him. Like, to be honest, when the Saints were getting rid of him, I was pretty surprised, because I mean, obviously they've got a few youngsters up forward, so I could kind of see why they were doing it. But yeah, when we were interested in him, I was rapt because he's over the years we haven't been the best kicks at goal, and he's definitely a good kick at goal. And look, he's just come in and played his role beautifully. Really, I mean, to be honest, at times he's really our fourth option. With McStay, Checkers, Billy being so good, in the air for his size. So yeah, he's I think he's been fantastic, really. I mean, we didn't expect him to come in and kick 40 or 50, but I kind of had him down for 30 plus, and yeah. I reckon he's on track for that. So he's been good, and he's fitted in really nicely, which is good. So yeah, hopefully he keeps that form up. But to be honest, when we first got him, I thought, gee, is he going to play over Mason? Because I thought, maybe DC might need some help in the ruck with Mason giving him a chop out. But I think now, like, it's memory spot all the way. So yeah, been stoked with him.
Yeah, he's been fantastic. One of our better recruits for sure. Before we let you go, it's been great to have you on, Paul. Just on the forward line, and we've spoken about it in depth just before, but I want to get your thoughts on Charlie West and how you see him in the near future. You had a terrific VFL game, which we're going to touch on very shortly. But do you see him having a role in this side as early as this week, potentially him making his debut? Because he seems like a great prospect for the future.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't be messing around with form in terms of our lineup, but I feel like he's been in such good touch this year. You've nearly got to reward him. I've been down to the VFL a fair bit, and I mean he's only young, but he's such a strong kid, and you don't want to take anyone lightly. But if you're ever going to pop him in, it could be this week against West Coast, and that's no disrespect to them. And McStay's only just come back in. Maybe we could afford to rest someone, or you could even play the four. McCreary's going to be out. I know it's not a like for like because obviously West's a big guy, but I think they could potentially find a way to get him in because you don't. He's been in tremendous nick, and you definitely want to reward him. So I mean, he's definitely one for the future, which is good because we haven't had the best of luck recruiting key forwards or backs really. So. Excited for the future, but I'd get him in this week. I don't know how, but we'll leave that up to Fly.
Yeah, you alluded to it a little bit in the press conference after the match, but it seems like a debut is certainly not too far away. Great to get your insights there, Paul. Thank you very much for joining us for this week's episode, and hopefully we'll catch you whether it's an AFL or a VFL game down the track and having plenty more wins to celebrate together. Thanks for joining us.
No worries. Thanks, boys. Love the pod.
Thanks for coming on, Paul.
Good on you, Paul.
See you, boys. Bye.
That was Paul joining us as part of our Guess the Crowd competition. That could be you if you guess the crowd closest. So have a ping each time Luke puts up the post closer to game day. Give it your best shot. If you are the closest one, that will be you joining us as our Guess the Crowd competition winner. Very insightful there from Paul. Really enjoyed that chat.
And it gets down to the VFL as well, so we know who we're going to message if the Surge ever can't provide what we love at this podcast. So.
It's a fantastic segue, Marcus, into what is the VFL report and what was a thrilling contest between the Pies and the Zebras out at AIA Centre, and it was the Pies that were able to go on and get the job done. Very close game it was. 3 points was the final margin. Marcus, a quick summary from you before we get from the Surge.
Yeah, the Pies started red hot, kicking 7 in the first term, Nico, and it was a real thriller. If anyone hasn't had the opportunity to watch this match, do it, because it was some incredibly heroic scenes from none other than Charlie West, and looking forward to a bit more of what happened in between from the Surge.
Certainly. So, Surge in near perfect conditions. The Pies started well, kicking with the breeze towards the river end, dominating around the ground and stoppages. Mitchell and Cox providing the drive for Collingwood's inside 50s, with the defence of Parker, Dean, Ryan, Glover and Markov intercepting the Zebras' inside 50s. It was Collingwood's best start to a game this season with 7 goals. Unfortunately, Josh Brown and TJ sustained injuries. Pies led by 33 points at quarter time. 2 rotations down and kicking against the breeze, Collingwood extended their lead by over 40 points, with Markov's goal highlighting the Pies' ability to transition swiftly from end to end. However, a goal against the run of play swung momentum back into Sandringham's way. They started to get on top of centre clearances, stoppages, and the territory. The Zebras scored 6 unanswered goals to reduce the lead to 8 points. Mitchell was effectively quietened. That's definitely not the way. Was quelled. And despite Cox's dominance in the hit-outs, the Zebras kept winning the ball out of the middle. Howes was injured as well, unfortunately, and taken off the ground with a leg or knee injury. The Pies led by 8 at half-time, and after the break and with the breeze, Collingwood came out and improved their centre clearance work. And whilst they were not as clean as they were initially, they were able to restore a respectable lead. Cox, Mitchell, Parker, Ryan all working hard to provide Collingwood's forwards with opportunities. West was a great marking target, kicked 2 goals for the term, and with the drive out of defence being strong, they kept the opposition goalless, and Collingwood led by 25 points at the final change. In the last term against the Breeze, Collingwood started well but missed some early opportunities to steal the game and then lost momentum. The Zebras managed to score 5 goals unanswered to take the lead midway through the final term. In a thrilling last few minutes, the game hung in the balance with both teams turning the ball over. Cox marked and then missed. Seconds later, Cox marked another ball, handballed it to Bennett, who then missed as well. Just when it appeared that the Zebras would win, Collingwood through Mitchell, DiMattia and Gray managed to move the ball forward and then enter Charlie West, who at the 29-minute mark led, marked and goaled to restore the lead, and then at the 32-minute mark repeated the same dose to counter a Zebras goal that happened in between, and then went on to win the game with a set shot after the siren. Pies get up by 3 points. We had 3 injuries, but were able to go and get the win, so very impressive stuff all around.
Incredible scenes, Nico. Tommy Mitchell, 27 disposals, 13
Can't be far away.
He will also be knocking on the door. I reckon he's probably got a few more weeks in front of him just to really get that touch back. But huge Charlie West. I think, looking at him, he's a like for like with Brody Myercheck. Yep. So I reckon this might be his week, Jacko.
Yeah, we've been in such a fortunate position up until this point, not only in this season, probably for a while, where we haven't had to rush young blokes into this side, Nico, and to sort of let them develop, or even players like Tom Mitchell coming off injury. And I think it's really important for big key position players like full forwards, Charlie West, classic example, not comparing them as like for like, but we saw it with Sam Darcy, who's now blossomed into, perhaps alongside Nick Daicos, the next future star of the competition, in that the more games they get in the VFL, the more times they're allowed to develop as big boys, the better off they are, I feel, in the long term. And that's something that we've done for Charlie, pardon me, and it's got to the point now where you almost just can't not select him. Again, no disrespect to the Eagles this week, but it's probably the perfect game to allow him to come in, give someone else a rest, and hopefully have an impact and give us a bit of a look into the future.
Are we going to set much expectations for him coming into a senior debut? Obviously, AFL and VFL very different, but to see the way that Charlie West performed in the VFL, to stand up in the key moment and kick 2 crucial goals late in the match to win it for the Pies, I mean, it was inevitable anyway in terms of him getting a senior debut. It looks like it's going to be this week, which is fantastic. But do we have many expectations about what he delivers? Should we be seeing him in the senior team this week?
Well, the bottom line is he's probably averaging 3 to 4 goals a game in his first season of VFL at 19 years old. So I'm not too sure, like even in the twos, I'm not sure how many. He went pick 50-something from memory. So it's not like he was first choice big key forward in the draft. So to me, he just seems like a no-nonsense, low-fuss footballer who just gets the job done, a lot like Brody Myercheck, who also had an extended run in the VFL. I think Charlie West will play ones much sooner, Nico. But I think there is a little bit of suggestion there that you can do this, mate. Like, again, not just because of the oppo, but he's actually been able to seize big moments and take big marks and kick goals consistently. So why not?
Love it.
What happens if he comes out this week against the Eagles if he's afforded his opportunity and kicks 6? So what is the headache then become, do we? All of a sudden, we thought it was going to be tough with Mason, Membry, McStay, trying to figure out the best mix for that. If he can come out and have a blinder, I mean, what a luxury to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Back to the twos, I
say. Just quickly as well, DiMattia close, do we think?
Nah, I think he's probably going to play this season in the twos and might get a run at it. If we've sewn up the minor premiership prior to the end of the season, it's so important that they get like a look. I just can't see it based on form, given we've just got so many halfbacks and so many guys to go through the midfield. Maybe if a side bottom or a Steele, a side bottom or a Pendles needs a rest and we've sewn up the minor premiership later in the season, but otherwise probably not.
It's got real round 24 versus Melbourne, where 6 points clear on top of the ladder vibes, where you just play some of these guys for the last month.
And still beat them by 50 points.
And still beat them, exactly right. All right, fantastic. VFL, who we got this week?
That's Southport up in Queensland, so that'll be happening on Saturday afternoon, I believe, for any of the Queensland fans. But Yeah, they're second on the ladder, and the Zebras were second last. So the
There
fact
you
we
go.
won by 3 points probably tells you what some of our stocks look like with coming back into the ones. But
Mhm.
a tough opponent. Coming
Interesting.
Up.
Interesting we don't play the Gold Coast in a couple of weeks when we actually do play the Suns up in Queensland.
Yes.
But that's a VFL fixture for you, honestly. Pies girls got a great win as well over Port Melbourne, defeated them at ETU Stadium to the tune of 27 points, 8-5 to 4-2. It was tight. We were down at quarter time, but we kept them to only a few goals afterwards. It was a 4-1 final term. That saw the Pies girls get the job done. We sit in 5th spot at the moment with a 6-3 record, so looking very good at the moment. We take on Box Hill at Box Hill City Oval this Saturday morning, 11:35 a.m. Box Hill is second on the ladder with a 7-2 record, so tough match, but with the way that the girls have been playing, looking forward to seeing that continue along in the VFLW. I think we've got enough time. Let's do a game, boys, before we wrap up. Gents, I've been missing with it for a few weeks, but I thought I'd get you back, get the mind going. You've had the bye, you've had the rest, so no excuses. I don't want a lethargic return like the Pies may have done on Saturday night, so we'll see how we go.
What about just general lack of ability, Nico? Is that an excuse? Because that's certainly something I should put my hand up for in these games.
I might need to find a Charlie West type to pressure you guys for selection. All right, so we've done this type of game before, but I've changed it up a little bit. So I'm going to give you 6 Collingwood players. I want you to tell me which 3 have been an All-Australian while playing for Collingwood and which 3 haven't been an All-Australian while playing for Collingwood.
DC and the All-Australian.
Yes,
talk
All-Australian.
coming in here.
Absolutely. I think someone did a tally that we've had about 7 or 8 Collingwood players in the media mentioned about being an All-Australian this year, so it's been very interesting. All right, so these are your 6 players. You tell me if you think they have or haven't been an All-Australian while playing for Collingwood. That's the key here.
Key.
Yes. So your 6 players are Paul Medhurst, Darren Jolly, James Clement, Chris Tarrant, Adam Treloar, Ben Johnson.
Jimmy Clement, yes.
Yeah. I'd say...
Did you say, who was it, Bucks? No.
So Paul Medhurst, Darren Jolly, James Clement, Chris Tarrant, Adam Treloar, Ben Johnson.
Chris Tarrant, yes. He was an All-Australian in 2011, was he not, when he came back as a backman? Or am I just making that up? Highly likely. Highly likely they'll make it.
I was going to say... Who was the last one on the list again, sorry?
Ben Johnson.
So are you saying that they are all Australian, or that they could
3 of
not
them
be,
were and 3 of them weren't.
but then they could have been but at another club, in which case the answer
For the ones that it relates to, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. But I want to know at Collingwood.
I feel like Paul Medhurst could have been one of those ones at Freo that was an All-Australian, but not at Collingwood.
Yeah, all right.
But again, that's a little bit before my time.
Thank you. Benny Johnson, that's just not ringing a bell as an All-Australian. I would have said Jolly, Clement.
Darren Jolly, did he have enough time at the Pies? I know we won the flag with him, but was he dominant All-Australian?
In that premiership
4 years he spent at Collingwood, if that helps.
A lot of injuries as well.
Actually, 5 years. 5 years. Yeah.
The only one I'm actually sure about is Clement for some reason.
All right, so we'll lock in Clement as a
as a
yes. Okay.
Yep.
Tarrant,
Yep.
where are we at with him?
Let's go.
Okay.
Tarrant a yes. Okay. And you need one more. Out of Paul Medhurst, Darren Jolly, Adam Treloar, Ben Johnson.
This could be the one, Mark.
Jolly.
So Jolly for yes. Okay. So let's just double check. You've gone your 3 yeses as Jolly, Clement, and Tarrant, and your 3 nos as Medhurst, Treloar, and Johnson.
Okay. I'm happy with the 3, right?
You're not.
But Adam Treloar, All-Australian, are you comfortable that did he get one whilst at Collingwood, or was it at GWS that he got one? Was he All-Australian when he came across? Because he's the only one, because I think the Jolly one worries me.
Your favourite?
So, yeah.
In Treloar, out Jolly.
Oh, gee, but then I'm going to look like an absolute idiot.
In Treloar, out Jolly.
Okay, in Treloar, out
Others
Jolly.
going to be here all night.
Alrighty. You got 2 out of the 3 yeses correct.
Okay, please tell me the Jolly one wasn't the one.
So the 2 that you were certain were correct, James Clement and Chris Tarrant, were both All-Australians while at Collingwood.
If it's
Yes.
Darren Jolly, I'm going to think about
The other person that was an All-Australian while at Collingwood was Paul Medhurst.
There you go.
2008.
Okay.
So was that rarely
that's a pass.
Recently, as he came across, what year did?
Yeah,
he
that was his first. That was his
Yeah.
second year at Collingwood.
Anzac Day.
Yeah, Anzac Day medal that year.
Yeah.
So Ben Johnson never an All-Australian. Adam Treloar never an All-Australian
There
at
you go.
Collingwood. I don't know if he was in
Suppose you
another
don't
club.
get him for kicking
Darren
off the
Jolie never an All.
Sorry.
That's not the first time you've made
Oh
that joke.
boy,
You did it at the other studio.
that's
It was just
included
way
in the
more
reel.
subtle.
That's for sure. All right. On that note, thanks, boys. That was pretty good. I thought.
That's a pass.
That's a pass.
66%.
Very nice.
I'm not
Stoked with
mistaken.
that. Yep.
All right, we've got a preview of the West Coast game coming up later this week. But until next week, thank you, Marcus and Jack.
Thanks, Nico. Thanks for having us as always.
Very good pod. Lethargic, but we got through
We
it.
got
in
through it as the
one
Pies
piece, so
did last week.
Very good.
Well, until next week, I've been Nicholas Sacco. You've been listening to or watching the Pies Nation podcast, where the pies are hot and the drinks are cold. We love all our listeners and viewers across Australia that enjoy the Pies Nation podcast, but we love our overseas viewers and listeners as well. And one of those that have gotten on board are the boys and girls over at the North Texas Devils in the US, who are looking for players to join their sides ahead of the 2025 season. Based in Dallas, Texas, and established back in 2020, they're hoping to bolster awareness of Australian rules football over in the US. And any of those listening or watching our podcast that are heading over to the US at some point this year, the one team for you to get involved with is the North Texas Devils. We'll give you all the information in our descriptions, I should say, across our podcasts and YouTube. But a great opportunity to get involved with some Aussie rules and teach the Yanks the best game in the world. And you can do so thanks to the North Texas Devils.